Marcus Chen had served 12 years in the United States Army Special Forces, 3 tours in Afghanistan, 2 in Iraq, countless missions that would never appear in official records. He had seen things that kept men awake at night, made choices that weighed on his conscience like stones at the bottom of a river. When he finally received his honorable discharge, Marcus returned to Seattle carrying only a worn backpack, a scratched Casio watch on his wrist, and memories that seemed heavier than any tactical gear he had ever carried. That Tuesday morning, he was walking down Madison Avenue when he saw the dealership, Ferrari of Seattle. The red lettering gleamed against the white marble of the building, and through the enormous glass windows, the vehicles glittered like jewels in luxury shop windows. Marcus stopped. He hadn't intended to go in. He was on his way to the public library, where he spent most of his days studying computer programming and free online courses. But something about those cars made him pause. Throughout all those years in the Army, Marcus had never spent much money. There was nowhere to spend it on remote bases in the middle of the desert. His salary accumulated month after month, automatically invested in conservative funds that a senior sergeant had recommended. He never checked the balance. Money seemed irrelevant when you lived between missions where your next breath was never guaranteed. But now, back in civilian life for 3 months, he was beginning to realize he had resources. Considerable resources. Marcus had been wearing the same battered military jacket for years. His boots had been resoled 4 times. The backpack on his back was patched with green duct tape. His hair was longer than military regulations allowed, and a few days' worth of beard covered his face. He looked exactly like a veteran trying to readjust to civilian life, living modestly while figuring out what his next step would be. The dealership door opened with a soft electronic whisper. The air conditioning enveloped him immediately, bringing with it the scent of new leather and expensive cleaning products. The showroom was immense, with a high ceiling and marble floors so polished they perfectly reflected the vehicles on display. A red Ferrari 488 GTB occupied the center, positioned on an illuminated rotating platform. Around it, other machines in shades of yellow, black, and silver awaited like sleeping predators. Marcus walked slowly toward the red Ferrari. His footsteps echoed in the wide open space. He could feel eyes on him. 3 salespeople chatted near a coffee table at the back of the showroom. A well-dressed couple examined a silver GTC4 Lusso, with an attentive salesperson gesturing animatedly. A woman in a black suit typed on a computer behind the reception desk. He stopped in front of the 488 GTB. The red paint was so deep, it seemed possible to dive into it. The curves of the hood flowed like frozen water at the perfect moment. Marcus leaned in slightly, observing the details. The yellow brake calipers visible through the alloy wheels, the prancing horse emblem on the hood, the design of the aerodynamic mirrors. "Can I help you?" The voice came from behind him, sharp as broken glass. Marcus turned around. The man who had approached him was about 30 years old, with gelled hair slicked back, a perfectly tailored gray suit, and Oxford shoes that probably cost more than Marcus's monthly rent. His name tag identified him as Bradley Whitmore, senior sales consultant. But there was nothing consultative about the expression on his face. His eyes scanned Marcus from head to toe in less than 2 seconds, and the judgment was instantaneous. "I'm just looking," Marcus replied calmly. Bradley chuckled briefly. "Looking? Sure." He crossed his arms. "Do you know how much this car costs?" "No," Marcus admitted. "That's why I was looking. $300,000, before taxes and fees." Bradley let the words hang in the air. "This isn't exactly the kind of showroom where people just come to browse, you know? We're not a museum." Marcus maintained his neutral expression, a skill honed during years of interrogations and tense negotiations in conflict zones. "I understand. I thought car dealerships received potential customers." "Potential customers," Bradley repeated, as if the words were funny. He glanced again at Marcus's worn backpack, his faded boots, his military jacket with its faded patches. "Listen, buddy. I appreciate your service, I really do. My grandfather served in Vietnam, but this isn't the place for you. There's a Honda dealership 3 blocks from here. They have some used models that might fit your budget better." Something cold settled in Marcus's stomach. It wasn't anger exactly. It was something closer to disappointment. He had spent more than a decade defending this country, people like Bradley included, and now he was being dismissed as if he were an inconvenience, as if his appearance determined his worth. "You make too many assumptions," Marcus said calmly. "I've worked here for 5 years," Bradley replied. his voice taking on a defensive arrogance. "I've learned to identify who the serious buyers are and who's wasting my time. And you, my friend, are definitely in the latter category." He gestured vaguely toward the door. "So why don't you make it easier for both of us and go find something more suitable within your reach?" The other salespeople at the back of the showroom had stopped talking and were observing the interaction. The salesperson who was assisting the wealthy couple gave Bradley a look of approval. The receptionist kept her eyes fixed on the computer screen, pretending not to notice anything. Marcus took a deep breath. He could simply leave. It would be easier. Avoid the confrontation. Avoid the uncomfortable situation. But something inside him resisted, not out of pride or vanity, but because it represented something bigger. It represented all the times veterans were seen as less capable, as charity cases, as social problems instead of individuals with complex histories and valuable skills. "Actually," Marcus said, slipping his backpack off his shoulder, "I'm interested in buying a car today." Bradley rolled his eyes. "Of course he is. And I'm the Prince of England." He started to walk away. "Look, I have royal clients to attend to. If you don't leave now, I'll have to call security." "Did you call security?" Marcus kept his voice calm. "For a potential customer who did absolutely nothing but look at a car in a car dealership? A potential client needs to have potential," Bradley retorted over his shoulder. "You clearly don't." Marcus placed the backpack on the mirrored hood of the yellow Ferrari, next to the red one. The sound of the rough fabric against the flawless paint made Bradley freeze and turn sharply. "Get that thing off the car," Bradley practically yelled. "You're going to scratch the paint." "Then maybe you should listen to me," Marcus replied. He slowly unzipped the main zipper of his backpack, maintaining eye contact with Bradley. "You said you've worked here for 5 years. You've learned to judge people by their appearance. But clearly no one taught you that appearances can be deceiving." From inside his backpack, Marcus pulled out a thick brown leather envelope. It wasn't new. The leather was worn at the edges, the seams beginning to unravel. But inside, organized in transparent dividers, were documents. Marcus opened the envelope on the hood of the yellow Ferrari, next to his backpack. The first document he pulled out was his military discharge papers. Honorable, after 12 years of service, 3 bronze stars, a Purple Heart medal, several commendations for meritorious service. He didn't show them to brag, but to establish who he was. The second document caught Bradley's attention. It was a bank statement. Marcus had printed it at the library that morning, after finally checking his accounts for the first time in months. The number at the end made Bradley visibly swallow hard. $673,000 in a checking account, another $840,000 in conservative investments, more than $1.5 million in military retirement funds and accrued benefits. $2 million, Marcus said calmly. Approximately 12 years of accumulated pay, conservatively invested, with compound interest. It just so happens that when you're stationed in Afghanistan, there aren't many opportunities to spend money. He picked up another document. "This is a pre-approval letter from my bank for a car loan of up to $500,000. Not that I need it." The showroom had fallen completely silent. The wealthy couple and their salesperson had stopped talking and were observing. The other salespeople in the back slowly approached. The receptionist finally looked up from her computer. Bradley had visibly turned pale. Listen, you didn't know," Marcus finished, turning to him. "You didn't know because you didn't ask. You just assumed. You saw a veteran in old clothes and a patched backpack and decided I wasn't worth your time." He deliberately put the documents back in the envelope. "Do you know how many men and women on duty live modestly? They save their pay because there isn't much to buy in combat zones. They return home with substantial resources but no desire to show off?" "Sir, I'm sorry," Bradley stammered. "I shouldn't have." "No, it shouldn't be," Marcus agreed. He closed the envelope and put it back in his backpack, then carefully removed the backpack from the hood of the yellow Ferrari. "But it's not just about me. How many other customers have you dismissed like this? How many people have come in here and been deemed unsuitable based on their appearance?" An older man in a navy blue suit emerged from a glass-walled office at the back of the showroom. His gray hair was neatly combed, and he moved with the authority of someone accustomed to being in charge. His name tag read, "Gerald Foster, General Manager." "Is there a problem here?" Foster asked, his voice polite but firm. Bradley opened his mouth, but Marcus spoke first. "Your senior salesman decided I wasn't a suitable customer for this dealership based on my appearance. He suggested I look for used Hondas and threatened to call security when I expressed interest in buying a Ferrari vehicle. Foster looked at Bradley with an expression that could freeze lava. Is that true, Whitmore? Mr. Foster, I thought... Bradley couldn't finish the sentence. Did you think you could judge a customer's worth by the clothes they wear? Foster asked, his voice dangerously calm. He turned to Marcus. Sir, please accept my sincerest apologies. This behavior is completely unacceptable and does not represent the values of this dealership. Marcus nodded slowly. I appreciate that. May I ask which vehicle you were considering? Marcus looked again at the red Ferrari 488 GTB on the turntable. It still gleamed under the showroom lights, still beautiful. But something inside him had changed. It wasn't about the car. It had never really been about the car. To be honest, Marcus said, I'm not sure if I still want to shop here. Foster nodded as if expecting that response. Completely understandable. But allow me to make a proposal. I know I can't undo what happened, but I'd like a chance to show that this was an isolated incident, not our service policy. He gestured toward his office. 10 minutes of your time. If you still decide to leave after that, I'll completely understand. Marcus considered it. Part of him simply wanted to leave, to go away with his dignity intact and never return. But another part was curious, and if he was honest with himself, he still liked those Ferraris. 10 minutes, Marcus agreed. Foster's office was spacious, but not ostentatious. Sales awards lined one wall. Photographs of satisfied customers with their new vehicles occupied another. Foster gestured to a comfortable leather chair and sat down behind his desk. How many years did you serve? Foster asked. 12. Army Special Forces. Foster nodded respectfully. My son is in the Navy. Second shift. I understand, at least in part, the sacrifice involved. He interlaced his fingers on the table. What Mr. Whitmore did was unforgivable. We train our staff. Better than that, but clearly it wasn't enough in this case. What are you going to do about him? Marcus asked. He will be suspended for 2 weeks without pay, Foster replied immediately, and he will undergo mandatory training on unconscious bias and customer service when he returns. If there is another similar incident, he will be dismissed. He paused. I know that may seem insufficient. That seems fair, Marcus said. He didn't want the man to lose his job. He just wanted him to learn his lesson. Now, Foster continued, tell me what you're looking for in a vehicle, and please be honest. If it's not a Ferrari, no problem. I can point you elsewhere. But if it is, I'd love to get your business. Marcus thought for a moment. Honestly, I came in here on a whim. I saw the cars through the window and got curious. I don't really need a $300,000 car. I live 3 blocks from the library. I can walk to most places. So why consider it? Because I spent 12 years putting everything off, Marcus replied. Postponing life, postponing pleasure, postponing everything that wasn't the next mission. And now I'm trying to figure out how to live again. Part of that is allowing myself to want things, to appreciate things, even if they're impractical. Foster smiled slightly. That's more wisdom than most of my clients demonstrate. Many buy cars like this to impress other people. You're considering buying one because you're finally allowing yourself to live. They talked for 40 minutes, not 10. Foster showed Marcus specifications for different models. He explained the differences between the 488 GTB and the F8 Tributo. He talked about maintenance costs, insurance, depreciation. He didn't try to push the more expensive vehicle. He asked questions about what Marcus really wanted. In the end, Marcus didn't buy the red Ferrari that had initially caught his eye. Instead, they found a silver 812 Superfast in stock. Less flashy than the red one, but equally impressive. A V12 engine instead of the V8. Something about it felt right. The price was $340,000. Marcus paid in cash via bank transfer. While the paperwork was being processed, Foster personally guided Marcus through the vehicle's features. He explained the driving modes, the infotainment system, and the steering wheel controls. He arranged a high-performance driving course, courtesy of the dealership. He made sure Marcus had his personal cell phone number for any questions. Bradley Whitmore watched everything from afar, his face a mask of regret and humiliation. Marcus met his gaze once. There was no triumph in Marcus's expression, no petty satisfaction, just a silent message. Wait, you learn from this. When Marcus finally drove the 812 Superfast out of the dealership 3 hours later, the sound of the V12 engine reverberated through the streets of Seattle like distant thunder. He didn't rev the engine wildly or put on a show. He simply drove calmly, feeling the power at his command, appreciating the engineering, allowing himself this moment of pure pleasure. That night, he parked his car in its designated spot in the underground garage of his modest apartment. He sat in the leather interior for a long moment, hands on the steering wheel, just breathing. It wasn't about the car, he realized. It never had been. It was about reclaiming his humanity after years of being treated like a weapon or a tool. It was about recognizing his own worth in a society that often viewed veterans as charity cases or statistics. The next day, Marcus returned to the library with his patched backpack and worn military jacket. He continued his programming courses. He began looking for jobs in the technology field. The Ferrari remained in the garage most of the time. He drove it occasionally on weekends, taking winding roads in the Cascade Mountains, feeling the adrenaline of controlled speed, the precision of Italian engineering. But the lesson Bradley Whitmore learned that day spread throughout the dealership. Salespeople began treating every customer who walked in with the same respect, regardless of appearance. Foster implemented a new training program focused on overcoming biases. The story of the veteran who was underestimated became a legend at Ferrari of Seattle, a constant reminder to never judge by appearances. Marcus never sought recognition for the situation. He didn't post about it on social media, or tell the story, to impress others. For him, it was just another moment in a life of moments where he needed to prove his worth to people who judged him before they even knew him. The difference was that now, finally, he had the resources to do it in a memorable way. And perhaps, at least one dealership had changed how it treated people.